What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next, got a pretty huge unboxing here, some awesome books, some books I definitely think are worth looking out for, but I thought while I was doing this unboxing, I would also talk about some tips for buying comics. I'm going to revisit some stuff that I talked about a year ago in another video, some tips for buying comics in this current market. So before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So, got a pretty big unboxing here. I've got a number of boxes that I've been waiting to open up. And I thought as part of this, I would also talk about some tips for buying comics right now in this current market. I made a video about a year ago, or I went over a lot of that in detail, but I want to rehash some of that because I've got a lot of different subscribers now than I did back then. And also, I think there are a couple things that have changed since then because the market is definitely different. So maybe a couple modifications to the suggestions that I had from about a year ago. So with that, let's get into these boxes. And so I'm going to start with the first tip, and that's actually the thing that made me decide to open up all four of these at the same time. And that is the sources for comics. Because I think what happens with a lot of people is they get in a rut when they're buying comics, and they're always buying from the same place, whether it's the same auction house or it's the same dealer or their LCS or whatever. Or I hear people talk about, oh, I'll never buy from eBay, or a lot of people call it Feebay or whatever they want to call it. And you can find deals on eBay. You can find deals anywhere. And so by throwing any one of these sources out saying you're never going to buy books from there, you're maybe passing on finding that book that you've been looking for. Because especially if you're somebody that's looking for something very specific, whether that's a modern book, like some type of modern Grail book, or you're looking for that Silver Age key that you've always wanted, or a Golden Age book, there are times when it can really just hurt you to be picky or to throw out potential options, because that book, maybe the only time it comes up for sale this year is on one of these other platforms, and you refuse to look at that platform, and so you missed out on it. And so keeping your mind open to a variety of different sources is a big recommendation for me. So I've got a number of different places that I bought books from as part of this unboxing. So some of those that you could look for, I really recommend, are the auction houses. So Heritage, Comic Link, Comic Connect, Hakes. There are also other smaller auction houses that are out there that will sell comic books fairly regularly. So all of those are great options. Then you've got places like eBay. I do highly recommend eBay. One of the books on here that I've got in these boxes is from eBay. That's where I sell a lot of my books. Then you've got Instagram. Instagram is a great source. I wasn't even on Instagram until maybe about 2 years ago, and I have bought a ton of books from there. There's a really strong collector community on Instagram, a lot of great books from it for sale, all the way from those modern Ghost Grail type variants to Golden Age books. I've seen Superman #1 sell there, Batman #1 sell there. So you can find just about anything. A lot of the rare Golden Age books I've actually found on Instagram that I have. I'd say most of them are from places like the auction houses like Heritage or from eBay, but I have definitely picked up some of them on Instagram. Like, what was it? My Suspense Comics #11, that classic devil cover, that was an Instagram purchase. And it's just a book that maybe you would never think that you'd find on a place, like Instagram, but there is, like I said, a big collector community there. Just you have to find those sellers that you trust. A really great one that's out there is Elite Comics 11. They're basically a middleman for sellers. They run sales, they post books for sale for them, and they're a great option for books because they have all kinds of stuff. That's actually where I've seen the Batman one sell, and I've seen the Superman one sell. So there's some big books that they sell there. So this first one here, this is one of the books that I've talked about recently that I think is really good to be looking for now. I was happy to pick this one up. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #4. It's a 9/8 white pages copy. This is the final book from that early run that is this size. That's the large magazine size book. And so this is the one that's green. Basically, the first issue is red, then the second issue is blue, third issue is kind of a turquoise, and then the fourth issue is this green. If you watch one of my recent videos, I recently picked up a 9/6 of the second print of issue number 1, and so then this was, I wanted to get 9/8 of the rest. That's kind of what I'm trying to do, is get 9/8 of the rest. So I've got that 9/8 of number 4 now, so was pretty happy to pick this one up. And yeah, just these early TMNT books, they have these really cool wraparound covers. I really like the monochrome type covers that they did for the first 4 issues. Issue 5, they still have wraparounds then, but that's when they changed down to the normal size comics, and they're multicolored. They're not just the single colored covers. All right, then next book here. I've been actually buying and selling this book recently. I've sold a couple copies recently. I'm picking it up when I find it for good prices, because this book has come down quite a bit, and I think that is when you should be buying these books. This is X-Men number 94. This is the first time you have the new X-Men team, so Nightcrawler, Storm, Thunderbird, Colossus, when you have them in the X-Men title. Their first appearance, I think most people know, is in Giant Size X-Men number 1. That's really the bigger book of the two, and that one in high grade is quite expensive. I'm not sure how I feel about the cover. I've talked about this one before. I used to always think that Storm's cloak was this guy's mouth. It's just like from a distance, it looks really like, it looks like it's his mouth on the cover. So it's just, I thought it was a real weird layout for the cover. But then once you realize that it's not, then it doesn't make it look quite as weird. But yeah, X-Men 94, this book spiked a ton during the comic boom, and it has been coming down a lot. It might still trend down a little bit more, but I don't know. It's come down quite a bit. I would have a hard time seeing it come down much more than this. Anything is possible with the current comic market. You know, if you have a lot of these books that are just coming up for sale, people looking to move their books, it's possible the prices could come down more. This one has come down quite a bit, and I would definitely put it on your watch list if you're looking to add a copy of this one or upgrade, because it's a book that I've been hoping I could get one up in the 9s. I just sold my 8.5, but I'm just going to keep watching them. We'll see. Maybe I'll be able to add a book that's up in the 9s. Yeah, X-Men 94, pretty big key. Talking to my friend Chris, Vancouver Comic Junkie, he said back in the earlier days, this was actually the bigger book, not Giant Size X-Men 1. This was the one that most people were looking for, but that shows trends can change, and now Giant Size X-Men 1 is definitely the bigger of the two, but still pretty big Bronze Age key for the X-Men. And the X-Men are coming eventually. They're definitely going to be here eventually, and so I think picking up X-Men keys as prices come down, never a bad thing to do. So that was a purchase from Heritage. So I'm just showing I've got a variety of different sources that I picked up books from. That was Heritage. This one was from Instagram. This one was from a seller that I've talked about a number of times on this channel that I bought quite a few books from. That is Superworld Comics. And they have a weekly comic sale on Tuesdays, and it goes from like 6 p.m. to 7:30. And they sell all kinds of stuff. They've got mostly older books. It's generally not moderns. It's mostly if you're looking for bronze, silver, golden age books. That's what they're selling. That's where I bought my Fantastic Four number 1 from. So, you know, they sell some big books on there. And this was one of the types of books I've really been going after for the last year or so is pre-code horror. And they definitely have pre-code horror somewhat regularly for sale, and I'm not saying pre-code horror is going for a deal right now. I'd say pre-code horror actually tends to be one of the types of books that's really holding its value during this current downtrend. I've seen a lot of record prices with pre-code horror books, but that's why I still just like to keep an eye out for them, because these golden age books, I think their scarcity has really helped protect them from a lot of this recent decline. Because I'm still seeing records with Golden Age books, with whether it's superheroes or horror or good girl art or whatever it is. And so I just thought this was a pretty cool cover, decided to pick it up. This one is a raw book. This is Strange Tales number 54. You can see it does actually have the Comics Code Authority on here, so this isn't technically pre-code horror, but it is still pretty early on. I don't know if this one's 1956. Let's see here. What's the actual year of this one? This one's 1957. So very soon after the Comics Code Authority was put in place, very early Silver Age horror. But this is from Atlas. And so if you're not familiar, it went basically Timely, then Atlas, then Marvel. That's how that company effectively transitioned. And so this is Atlas Horror, and I don't know exactly what's going to happen to that guy, but it looks like he's probably not going to have a very good day. I don't know if these are zombies or whatever they are in the background there. Now, if you're looking for Golden Age horror books, so this one is technically Silver Age, and this one does have the Comics Code Authority stamp on it, but Atlas is a great place to look. Atlas books are generally quite a bit more affordable than a lot of the other horror publishers. So when you've got Harvey and EC, the ones that have some of those really big expensive books on them, Atlas tends to be one of the more affordable options. But honestly, I think that they still have some really incredible covers that they have put out, because really when it comes to pre-code horror, a lot of it really does come down to the cover content. And so they have some really incredible covers, and I think as those other books continue to get more and more expensive, because they are just getting more and more expensive, those early horror keys, or key covers, whatever you want to call them, have just been continuing to go up. They tend to be one of the genres that has been fighting this downtrend pretty strong. You're actually seeing prices stay steady or even increasing, getting some new records on a lot of those books. And so I think as that continues to happen, people will start turning their eyes to other options, and one of those options really is Atlas. I think it's largely been one that's been overlooked, and being that Atlas is from that Timely Atlas Marvel transition, I think there's a lot of potential for these Atlas books. Now that also brings me to one of the other tips that I wanted to talk about, and that's because I've got this raw book here that's grading your books, learning to grade your books. And I can't stress it enough, do not just blindly trust the grade that anybody gives you. It doesn't matter who it is. Do not blindly trust grades. You should always grade your own books. Always flip through your books when you get them. Make sure that it has the right page count. Make sure that there isn't anything cut out. Make sure that it's what you're expecting when you get that book. Now, I've talked about this a number of times where I buy books from a lot of different people, and usually when I'm buying raw books, I'll buy what I call like test books, usually like 1 or 2 at the start, just to get a feel for that person's grading. Because even if I think somebody overgrades their books, that doesn't mean I don't want to buy books from them. I just have to know going in how they grade, because not everybody grades the same. I like to grade the way that CGC grades the books, because that's ultimately where I'm going to send those books in. And so I grade the way, at least I interpret, that CGC grades these books. And if you watch my unboxing videos, you generally see that I get my grades pretty close to what CGC gets. Because some people like to grade by Overstreet. Overstreet tends to generally be a little stricter than what CGC does. And so if somebody grades by Overstreet, you're probably getting undergraded books. Other people just seem to have their own grading style. They just kind of throw some grades up there based on however they do it or whatever. And that's when you often find that maybe they consistently overgrade their books. And so as long as you know that that's the case, then it doesn't matter. So it's important for you yourself to understand that grading, so that when you are buying books, you're not getting taken advantage of, you're not buying something maybe that's restored that you didn't know was restored, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but I just felt like this is a pretty cool horror cover, early Silver Age, 1957. Has the Comics Code Authority stamp. Unfortunately, can't call it pre-code, but still, I thought this is a cool one, and I do definitely recommend going and checking out Atlas, because they do have some really great horror covers out there. So that was the second source for this one. That was Instagram, and that was Super World Comics that I picked that up from. I have, like I said, bought quite a few books from them. Now, this next one here, this is actually from Comic Connect, and I almost will never buy from Comic Connect. And it's not because I have anything against Comic Connect or anything like that. I think it's fine. The reason for me is that I don't like the style of their auctions. So when you've got eBay, when it has an auction, when the timer's ticking down, it's done when the time is done. That's the same way Comic Link works. When the timer comes down, it's done. With Heritage, they add time when you bid at the last second. If they do a countdown in the last 5 seconds, you bid, and they add something like 10 seconds it's like 8 to 10 seconds to the clock, and then it comes down, it'll add, and then if you bid again, it'll add that back again. And so it's still relatively quick, and things keep moving forward sequentially. So with Heritage, you don't move to the next book until the prior book is done. Same thing with Comic Link. You don't move to the next book till the prior book is done. Comic Connect, what they do is that if you bid within the last 3 minutes, they go back up to 3 minutes, and they move on to the next book. And so if you're trying to watch multiple books at once, which is what I like to do, it's almost impossible on Comic Connect, because you'll have tons of books overlapping, ending at the same time once you get deeper into the auction, because you've got people that are bidding and that 3 minutes is being added on, and now you have overlapping books because they don't pause that book. And so I think it probably helps them for the most part get higher prices, because then you're adding in a lot of time, but I think it also hurts them because you've got people like me that then don't want to bid on anything because you've got all these overlapping books, and it's hard to track multiple books at once. So it's maybe a good place if you're looking for a few books, but not so much if you're trying to watch multiple books at once. But the reason why I ended up bidding on these was that this was, I don't know, maybe like a month ago or something like that. It took a while for these ones to get shipped out, but maybe a month ago, I was on Instagram at night, and somebody posted something like, "Oh man, books are going for a steal on Comic Connect," and I was like, "All right, I'll go check it out," because I have an account. I have an account on all the different sites. I mean, so I can go and bid if I want to. And so I go over there, and I just quickly looked at the books that were coming up over like the next hour, and I just flagged some of them, priced them out, and started watching them to see, if they were going to hit a price that I was comfortable with. And they still had some big sales. That was where, I believe that was the auction that had, I think, the $40,000 sale of the Ultimate Fallout 4, the Terjevic variant. And so it still had some real big numbers, some big sales that happened, but there were some deals in there too. And so I ended up picking up 2 books. One of them is a Silver Age book, one of them is a Golden Age book, and packaged really well. They're in that box, and they've got cardboard between each one and tape around them. So I definitely can't complain about the packaging. That looks great. So let's get these out of here. Now the Golden Age book, it's definitely one that I have been on the lookout for a while, but it had gotten so expensive, and I was pretty surprised that this one went for as low as it did. I can't remember exactly what I paid. It was like $1,700, so I had to buy it. I mean, it was just, if I was going to sell it, I'm not selling this book for less than like $5,000. I know what this book is worth, and so I was very happy to pick this one up. So this is that Golden Age book. This is a Wally Wood cover. This is Strange Worlds #4, and so you've got the attractive woman on the front. You've got these 2 people in these like rocket pods in the background here, and just the Strange Worlds title has some amazing covers in it. This one is probably the top cover. I'd have to think about it. This one is probably the top cover from the Strange Worlds title. I've shown a Strange Worlds 5 relatively recently in a different unboxing, but you can see it has that classic cover designation. It's got this is a Wally Wood cover and art, but just an incredible cover, and I was very happy to have the opportunity to pick this one up. It's an older CGC slab, not the really old ones, but the kind of like middle ground ones. I was going to definitely take a look at it to see if there's any chance it could maybe bump up, but I don't think I'd really want to risk it. I feel like it looks like it's been pressed. I think it has enough flaws that it's not going to get out of this grade. Some little staple tears there, a little bit of wear along the spine, but in general, a very, very nice presenting copy of this book, 1951. Awesome cover. Super happy to get this. Now, what I don't like is I don't like these stickers that they put on the back. Comic Link does it too. Heritage puts a sticker on the bag that they put the comic in. I like that so much more. I do not like having to try to deal with peeling these stickers off. You can use stuff to get the goo and everything off, but yeah, awesome book. I might get this one at least re-slabbed to get it in a new slab, but super happy with this one. And this will bring me to my second point about these tips for buying, and that is get a pricing service. I'm still surprised by the number of people that I talk to that do not pay for a pricing service like Cover Price or GPA or Go Collect, even though I am personally not a Go Collect fan anymore after that change that they made about a year and a half ago, I think it was. Maybe it was just last year, I don't know. But I used to love Go Collect. It was my primary source. Then they made that change, and just the change has resulted in a lot of incorrect data being populated under books, where you'll have a book that has the totally wrong pricing data in there. And it's like it'll be for X-Men number 4 and it has Amazing Spider-Man 32 as the price, as one of the books that's in there. It's just something is really wrong with how they're linking prices now, and it's been like that ever since they made that change. It has not been fixed, and so I moved away from Go Collect, and I really just use Cover Price and GPA now for my pricing data. But I highly recommend paying for one of those services because they're not that expensive. GPA I think is like $12 a month. I think Cover Price is like $7, something like that. So they're not that expensive, and they can save you tons of money, and they can really tell you quickly if you're getting something for a deal. You know, when the last sale on this book is like $5,400 and you see it going for like $1,700, you buy that book if you have the money to buy it. Because it's just, these books are so rare, there's so few of them, there will be demand for this book, and it just happened to be that you saw that you had that thing at a deal. So those services pay for themselves usually with one purchase or with one sale, because it goes the same way with selling. If you're selling a book, you want to know what that current market is. You maybe didn't realize that the prices of books had spiked, and then you're selling books for something that's way too cheap. It's also been where I've seen recently where there have been books that have been posted on Instagram, and someone will post, "Oh my gosh, that's such a great price." No, it isn't. The prices had dropped, and it actually isn't a great price. And maybe you're not realizing that that was actually overpriced for what books are going for right now. And so those pricing services, just they tell you that very upfront. Because I know what a lot of people like to do is they like to use eBay sold listings. But eBay sold listings are not accurate all the time. If you're looking at an auction, generally you're okay. If it's an auction, that's the price it went for, unless the person didn't pay, that kind of thing. But if you're looking at fixed price listings, a lot of the time, the price that you're looking at is not what it actually sold for. And one of the big reasons is if somebody sends an email to someone within eBay and says, "Hey, would you take $500? Say the book's listed at $700, and the person sends them an offer through the email for $500, that book shows up on eBay as sold for $700. Now, GPA pulls in the correct number, so that's not a problem there. And if you have an eBay store, you can use their TerraPeak sales tool and get what the actual price was. But I don't think most people are doing that. Most people are just going on eBay, typing in the thing, hitting sold, and they're saying, "Oh, that book sold for $700. No, it didn't. It might have sold for $500. It might have sold for a lot less than $700. And so that's why it's risky to use eBay sold listings exclusively, and paying just that little bit of money for the pricing service is well worth it. I highly recommend it. All right. So the second book that I ended up picking up, I hardly ever see this book in nice condition. So I thought it was worthwhile to pick up. It felt like a pretty good deal to me, again, based on using the pricing service. I thought this was a good price. I don't remember exactly what I paid for it at the time, because like I said, this was about a month ago. But this is Tales of Suspense number 45. This is a pretty big Iron Man related key. This is the first appearance of Happy Hogan and Pepper Potts, two major characters, especially in the MCU now, where you've had those characters play major roles in the MCU. Pepper Potts, I think she's pretty much done. What we might see Happy Hogan again. I love seeing him in the show. He's always fun in the movies and everything. But this is their first appearance, and every time I see this book, I've had this book a couple other times, I think, and they were just destroyed. This book often is just really beat up because you've got this dark green cover, and it always shows tons of creases, lots of wear, and so I thought a 5.5, this book just presented really, really well, especially for the grade. I mean, you've got a little bit of corner wear up there. You've got some wear on the overhang at the top, and a few little spine ticks. But I mean, for a 5.5, and you've got this couple little creases down here. For a 5.5, this book presents very, very well. It's got a tiny little stain on the back here, but no creases on the dark green in the middle, which I think is a big selling point for this book especially. I mean, this is pretty early on with Iron Man. I mean, his first appearance is, 7 issues earlier in issue 39. So early appearance of Iron Man, still in his gold armor, 2 major first appearances. So I thought this is a great pickup for Iron Man. That's one of the other tips that I've got here that I wanted to talk about, and that was be picky. I've talked about that on a few videos recently, and this is a perfect example. Like I said, this is a book that it's a 5.5, but it presents really, really well. It doesn't have any of those big creases, and so this is the time for you to be picky on those books that you're picking up. Look for ones that present well for the grade. You know, things where having a little flaw like a stain on the back is really going to hold it back, but you're not going to actually have anything on the front that detracts from the book. That's a big thing right now that I'm really saying. Be picky about the wrap, be picky about the, so the wrap, what I mean is like how square the wrap is, be picky about the presentation, and if page quality matters to you, maybe be picky about the page quality. But yeah, so definitely something that, another tip that I really recommend right now, be picky on what you're picking up. Look for those books that present especially well. So like I said, keep your options open from where you're buying from, because you just never know where that book is going to show up that you're looking for. I hardly have ever seen that Strange Worlds #4 come up for sale, and so that's a perfect example of that. If I hadn't taken the time to go look at Comic Connect, would have completely missed that opportunity to get that book. All right, now the last book here, this one is from eBay, and so I've had 4 different boxes from 4 different sources. So I had Instagram, I had Comic Connect, I had Heritage, and now I've got one from eBay. And this one, I was definitely I wasn't looking for this book. This is one that I will probably end up putting up for sale. But my buddy Mike, that he actually, the one that he made my like my logo and that intro and outro for the channel and everything, and the headers for my channel. I talked to him on Instagram, and he mentioned, he's like, hey, this book is coming up for sale. It looks like it's going to be a real steal. And so I decided to go bid on it and see what would happen. Ended up winning it. I think I paid $300 for it when they're generally going for over 400. So I thought it was a cool one to pick up. And it is a big departure from what I normally buy. This is a modern book. If you watched the other video that I put out recently where I was talking about modern variants, this isn't a variant, but this is one of the artists that was very prominently featured in that video for the same reasons that this book is so popular. So this is Amazing Spider-Man number 607. This is this classic Black Cat cover done by J. Scott Campbell. And J. Scott Campbell, he is most well known for drawing the attractive women on covers. He's basically like a modern good girl artist, and there are some of his books that command a serious amount of money, and that's one of the things I talk about in that other video. I recommend going and checking that one out. I think it's a pretty cool video. And this one is, it's signed by him. It's got I like the ink choice. The silver ink fits in well with the background, matches his, his printed signature on there. But this one, you wouldn't really call it a good girl art cover. You'd probably call it more of a bad girl art cover, because she's, a villain, kind of a villain, and, she's stealing stuff on the cover. But it's just one of those books it's popular for the cover art, and there's not really anything majorly key or anything on that. I mean, it says you've got Anna Kravinov cameo on last page. I mean, I don't know. Not really anything key, but there are a number of these J. Scott Campbell books right around here that are in pretty high demand just because of the cover art. And so I decided to pick this one up. I thought the signature looks really cool. I like his signature. I think that one looks really nice. It's a back cover. But this is just one that, this is something else that I talk about, is that there are a number of ways that you can approach buying comics, but there's 2 things that I think are important to consider, and that is you can either target specific books, or you can just look for those deals. And so my general approach is that I just look for deals. If I see books that I think are a good deal, pick them up, especially if it's a book that I'm going to end up selling. It makes it easier. You're not attached to the book, then you don't really worry about selling the book, that kind of thing. The other way to look at it is targeting specific books. Now, normally I approach buying, like I said, by just looking for deals. But right now, with the current comic market, that's one of the changes that I think a lot of people might want to take. Instead of just looking for deals, this is when I think is a pretty good time to start targeting those books you've been wanting to buy. Because over the last year, a lot of books I think people felt were getting out of reach for them, that they couldn't get those books anymore, those keys that they had really wanted, they'd gotten out of range in terms of price. But those prices are coming back down. If you've watched some of my recent videos where I talked about books that are trending down, we're seeing books that are coming down anywhere from 40 to 60%, sometimes a little more than that even. And not just for random books, for some pretty big key issues. So definitely time to put those books on your watch list. Find that price that you're comfortable with and start looking for things like auctions. And you just wait until that auction goes off. If it ends up going for your price, great, you've got that book. If it doesn't, just look for the next one. Now, I'm not saying just rush out and buy that book that you've been wanting. It's possible things could drop more. It's definitely at least worthwhile to put them on your list and pick that price that you're comfortable with. Now, this is something I've talked with a number of people recently that, yeah, we are definitely on a downtrend now. Most books look like they're heading down like this. But those downtrends only last for so long before you reach a floor that people are just like, screw it, I'm buying that book. It reaches that point where they don't care, they're not going to let it go any lower. And I don't think we're quite there yet. Maybe some books we are, other books we aren't. But once you get that, books tend to start trending back up. The thing is, so many people are afraid of buying it and letting it drop a little further that they just keep waiting, and then it starts going up, and then they get mad that they missed out on it again. So if it's a book you want, if it's a book you're looking to keep, that kind of thing, just find that book you want, the price you're comfortable with, go for it, and then just set it aside and don't think about it, don't worry about it anymore after that. All right, so those are all the books that I picked up. Those are the different tips that I talked about. Just kind of a quick recap. Remember all those sources. Don't look down on all those different places that you could buy books from. All of them are great options, and you never know what you're going to find on these different sites. Get a pricing service. I cannot stress that enough. Learn to grade. You can get some great deals on raw books, but if you are not comfortable grading, you can get taken advantage of. So learn to grade. Then one that I've really been pushing a lot recently, be picky. Find those books that really have nice wraps, nice colors, good page quality, those things that just make that book set itself apart from other ones. This is the time that you can be picky. And then the last one there is, I think now is a decent time to start targeting specific books. Put those books on a watch list that you've been wanting, that you thought had gotten out of reach, because a lot of them are coming back down and you might be able to pick that book up that you wanted at a reasonable price. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. I've got more videos over here if you'd like to watch some of my other videos, and the subscription button right here. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.